it is time for something very special. The touring car and the debut of the touring car B-Spec race is a new format, a 30-minute race with a 10-minute break, then another 30-minute race. And Cal, not running the full long course, but the West course.
The West course, so a lot more emphasis on handling and not so much on the horsepower factor here, of course, but still some good overtaking opportunities. It is really a fun little racetrack.
Rolling start for the first two races because of that short break and preserving clutches. And it's a new format for some of these guys. We went green, and a look at the highlights here, and it was a battle royale right off the start. However, able to hang on to it at least early, Cal. Jan Heylen was able to portray that pole into an early lead.
Yeah, he took the lead early, but here we see him get in some trouble through the twisty stuff. And Michael Cooper, remember, he won the 2 opening rounds of this championship way back at St. Pete. Looking strong here once again.
Heylen able to regather things and was able to get back around Cooper, although Cooper did not go quietly. Some great door-to-door battling here, but Heylen obviously able to eventually retake the point as they were starting to open it up just a little bit. But in the background, as you can see, Cooper fighting back once again. It was a great cut and thrust battle for quite some time, but those Hondas from Compass 360 were coming.
Yeah, Lamb and Winchester are on a roll. They're starting to close in on these leaders as they run side by side. It's really compromising their lap times here. That's allowing the Compass 360 boys to close in on them.
And Jan Heylen, of course, known as an open-wheel champ car driver with podiums in that series, but Callie does have experience with these type of cars.
He does. He actually managed the Jetta TDI Cup Series for a couple of seasons there, so I'm sure he's got a bit of wheel time and certainly taken to this touring car action extremely well, having come off a champ car career, believe it or not.
In the touring car B-Spec debut, Capaldi was leading early, but Sean Bailey, the associate engineering editor for Road and Track magazine, made a great charge and closed up on the battle here. Meanwhile, in the touring car division, once again, those orange and black Compass 360 cars, Lamb and Winchester, as you pointed out, starting to really close up, but they got into their own side-by-side battle.
Yeah, it looked like side-by-side action with the 2 front rows there, but here we see it. We see Heylen starting to fade a little bit. You can see the power there. He's not staying on the tail of those cars in front of him. Some kind of issue with that VW.
And it would eventually bring him into pit lane, and he would be out of the race. Unfortunate development for Jan Heylen and the HPA program. Nonetheless, the battling was fierce. You hear that squeal? That was Mike Cooper running a bit wide.
He's wide there, and it allows the Compass 360 cars, and we call this the top lamb chop. He goes straight to the front as Winchester looks for a way through as well.
Winchester trying to shoot the gap. Meanwhile, we go into the TCB battle, and you can see Bailey was leading it, but Capaldi not giving up. These guys put on an absolutely great show, but look at Jonathan Start. The Fiat 500 squares up underneath, gets right in there, and he goes for it, tries to slot through. These guys continue running side by side. Start keeps it tight to the inside, and Cal, he was eventually going to make this move pay off.
He is hooked up. Look at this great action here. This racetrack really provides this kind of action, lap in and lap out, and Start was looking really strong. The Fiat 500 really starting to come into its own. Time management is key in this race. Remember, they got a 10-minute break before they go again.
And look at how easily Start able to keep that car to the inside in the Blackrock hairpin and protect that car, handling beautifully by the end of this one. And that battle behind was fierce. As they were coming up to some of the B-Spec cars, Lamb and Winchester bring it home. A tremendous finish here, a 1-2 for Compass 360 and their Honda Civics. Just a great run as they bring home the first of 3 races here this weekend in this combined category. They bring home a 1-2 sweep. Very impressive there. And for Jonathan Start, the first ever touring car B-Spec win going to the Fiat 500 in this very accomplished SCCA Club Racers. Tremendous drive, really, that he put together and was able to hustle this car around in absolute spectacular fashion. We're back at our coverage for the Privacy Star Utah Grand Prix presented by Bondurant, the second of the triple header run, if you will, for the touring cars and the touring car B-Spec. Highlights package we want to show you here, presented by Kia. And look at that move at the start, another rolling start as we talked about. Cooper way to the inside, but the 2 Compass 360 cars. The grid here established by your finishing order in that first race, so they started up front, and that's where they went. But Cooper was flying, Cal.
He really was. Look at this move down onto the inside of the Blackrock hairpin. Winchester very late on the brakes there. does a good job of gathering it back up, but in the meantime, Cooper is through for the second spot.
And in the touring car B-Spec, it was Jonathan Start, by virtue of his win in the Fiat 500, who led up front. However, the battling behind him was pretty intense, as SCCA National Champion Sage Marie and that red number 45 Honda Fit and the Zero Mazda of Sean Bailey got into a great scrap, pounding the curbs, cut and thrust, inside, outside. Absolutely great door-to-door racing.
Just good, clean racing and just spectacular stuff. These guys really having a hard go at it throughout the course of this race. Look at these little cars running up on the curb and then tucking back to the inside for this run down the short and front straightaway here.
Again, running the West course at 2.2 miles in length, it really let these cars play with the great handling characteristics they have and allowed them to do that kind of mirror-to-mirror battling. And right there you see the Zero sliding through Sean Bailey, again the Associate Engineering Editor for Road and Track Magazine. But Mike Cooper on the move in the touring car, in this case the overall category, able to slide through, get by Todd Lamb. But these guys really had a war unfolding.
They did. They really start to almost trace and paint here. Look at this move by Todd Lamb. Dives it down to the inside, but more importantly, look at him. Uses all of the road on the exit, runs Michael a little bit wide. He was spilled up about this.
Todd's been really working hard, and he's pushed us off the course 2 or 3 times now. So basically, gloves are off. We're going for it. We're going to win this thing.
That's some intensity from the crew, the intensity from the driver on board. Watch this move here. He was able to dive down to the inside of Lamb once again. These guys were trading paint, trading lines, going after it. And don't forget the third Compass 360 car, Shea Holbrook, who started a little bit further in the back in that True Car Honda. A great run, closing up on this gap and making it a 4-car scrap for the lead. And right there you see it again, Lamb and Cooper door to door, and a little bit of a bump and go.
Yeah, they're still going at it, Greg, and Michael Cooper is not impressed by these moves by Todd Lamb. And Shea Holbrook, what a great run for her. 3 Compass 360 cars in the top 4.
And Cooper finally decides again to give the move down to the inside. Lamb fights for it, floated a little bit wide. Cooper at this point finally able to come through, and once he did, he was able to draw away, and Lamb started to get attacked by his teammate Ryan Winchester.
Yeah, I think in terms of time management in this second race here, Todd Lamb really struggled a little bit with that, and he left the door open for Cooper to go on to win this one.
And Cooper did indeed just that. A great drive. Once he got in front, finally was able to drive away, put together the win. And for the second straight race, Jonathan Start in the Fiat USA Carbotech Fiat 500 was able to carry that pole and bring it home for a win in front of Sean Bailey in the Road Track Mazda 2. So a double sweep for Jonathan Start and that Fiat 500. You have to love that. And of course, everybody headed to Victory Circle, and there is Mike Cooper with Jim.
Neither of them were easy. The first one was certainly a little harder. That's the, well, really the first long run we've done on those tires. So I burned them off pretty bad, being pretty aggressive, running those 4 guys in the first race. And then took what we learned from the first race. Even though it wasn't good, we learned. And we applied it to that second one, and we sure got through it.
And next up, Jim caught up with double winner Jonathan Start.
I just started learning the track. First time ever here. Just want to stay smooth, stay clean. Had a little incident with Capaldi. I'm sorry about that, but you know, strong race. I'm happy. Little car that could. First B-Spec win. Awesome.
It's time for us to take a look at Sunday's third round of the triple header for the touring cars and the touring car Bs. It was essentially the 5th round of the touring car championship and the 3rd round of the touring car B battle. Ryan Winchester, by virtue of fastest lap in the second race on pole in touring car, and in touring car B, Sean Bailey had the fastest lap in the second race. That was what set the grid. It was a standing start for this longer 40-minute race with no breaks. And once again up front, it was the Compass 360 cars that got the launch, but Michael Cooper along the outside, Cal, able to drive around into that first turn.
He really was. Ryan Winchester got a pretty good stop, immediately tried to dive over and take that line away, but Cooper had a head of steam and easily takes the lead into turn 1. Now we're on board with Tristan Herbert, who had a brilliant start here, ultimately the Optima Battery's best standing start.
Up from 11th on the starting grid and picked up 3 spots right off the bat. They literally took a friend's engine, drove a VW Beetle Turbo up from LA, pulled the engine out, put it in that car so he could make the start. Meanwhile, in the touring car B battle, it was Craig Capaldi in the Ford Fiesta leading early, but Sage Marie was on an absolute tear, jumped into the lead in his Honda Fit.
Yeah, he's really learned a lot here in these first couple of rounds, looked very strong here on Sunday.
Then Capaldi, though, coming back after him as they were battling. big time for that lead in the class, and look who started to join them again. Jonathan Start in that Fiat 500, and they got into a great battle. I mean, we had basically 5 cars here absolutely glued together. Again, door-to-door action for these guys on this short course, the West Course, the 2.2-mile loop.
Yeah, the West Course is ideally suited to these B-Spec cars that allows them to go side by side through these corners, and you can just get a little bit more grip if you tuck it down to the inside there. You run out wide like this one. Marie there, you can see struggling for grip out there near the curb.
And you watch Capaldi try and sort of cut down underneath, but he was on the outside heading into the next sequence of corners and lost it there. Meanwhile, there's Tristan Herbert, that blue and white HPA Ren Group Brimtech German Auto Parts VW, on a tear, moving up through the pack, moving into that lead group at this point, Cal.
And as always, if you give Tristan a strong car, he's always going to be a factor here as he now spreads the 2 Compass 360 boys and looking for his way to the front.
And once again, Shea Holbrook in her Compass 360 True Car Honda had a good run going, getting down underneath Mike Pettiford. Mike also cuts back and tries to drive through on the Go For It Racing School's VW Jetta. Meanwhile, up front, Herbert, Lamb going at it again.
Herbert got the second place briefly there, but Lamb immediately responds with these two cutting and diving around here, and Winchester just there in the background trying to manage his tires to see if he can be a factor in the last few laps of the race.
Again, that VW with turbo, the Compass 360 Hondas, normally aspirated, handling, power, just a great mix here, and as you can see, pretty equally balanced.
Yeah, Tristan really likes that inside line there coming off the hip, and there you can see he gets the power down nicely and takes that second spot away from Todd Lamb.
And the battle continues for them, of course. And back in the touring car B-Spec category, the battle for second good as well. Capaldi, Connor Ford in the Honda, the white Honda, takes it briefly, and then Start in the Fiat. Now, Pirelli World Challenge Series announcer, along with Jim Martin, is Jeff Lepper, who's a very astute club racer as well. Ask him to give us some input from behind the wheel.
Yeah, no problem on these Pirelli P0 tires. They are excellent. I've had no wear, no fade whatsoever. Plenty of grip. This is a fun drive.
And he literally hopped into that car on the starting grid to do that for us. So really appreciate that. Great input as well. And look at this right here now. This is the move. As he came up, going for the lead, they split a touring car, Cal. And look at this battle. Cooper tries it, stays to the inside, but Herbert now on him.
He was, but he had to take to the dirt there to avoid that Spec B car. Great move by Tristan Herbert. He's certainly very aggressive, and he's looking for the lead now.
And these guys waged another great door-to-door scrap. As you can see, Cooper to the inside here in this fast sequence of corners in the early part of this lap. And you can see Herbert working in, working out, and at this point decided to make the big dive to the inside into the Black Rock hairpin and got himself placed nicely.
Cooper tried to protect there. The inside line was a little bit late, and that allows the over and under there for Cooper on the way out. So when you dive down the inside there, you obviously compromise your exit a little bit.
And of course, this cut and thrust battling allowed those 2 Compass 360 cars to close in just a little bit. At this point, though, Herbert was in front. Cooper had to tuck into second. And then you can see Cooper started to fade a little bit. And Todd Lamb on the charge once again in that National Karting News Compass 360 Honda. But look at Cooper coming right back after him again in the Mazda Speed Mazda 3. But that move ended up just sort of fading a little bit to the outside. And that'll open the door for Ryan Winchester and Lejean Industries Compass 360 car. And then this big spin here looped it completely. Tommy Boileau.
Nice thing about this racetrack is there's a lot of runoff room out there, so when you do make a mistake like that, typically you're not going to hit anything. But here we see a spirited battle between Shea Holbrook and Goody Michelson, and ultimately here, Michelson turned around.
Meanwhile, once he got to the front, Tristan Herbert was just able to start easing away in that VW, and he was able to bring it around out of that last turn. The checkered flag awaited his second career win in Pirelli World Challenge competition. And in the touring car B-Spec, it was the number 45 Honda Performance Development Honda Fit of Sage Marie, a former national champion in the T3 class, bringing it home absolutely beautifully.
I'm still shaking from that race. You know, we had to work with attrition all weekend. We threw a rod early in practice on Thursday. VW fans came together. Somebody gave us their Beetle, and we took the motor out of that, put it in, and we were able to make. We had a bunch of problems yesterday during the 2 races, and just want to thank HPA Motorsports, GermanAutoParts.com, Brimtech, Steve Golden Racing. I can't do it without Steve Golden. This guy is just unbelievable.
It's a full team effort.
Yeah,
great
absolutely.
Drive,
I can't believe believe that all that hard work came out, at the end of the weekend like this.
And of course, this was also the debut weekend of the new TCB B-Spec category. Sage Marie bringing home the win in the third of the triple header. Here he is.
Yeah, Fast Honda, I got to thank the folks at HPD and Honda and the folks at World Challenge for giving us a place to race, putting the B-Spec series together, getting us all out here and putting all these cars together, all these manufacturers in such a competitive, close, fun class. Of course, the Honda Fit was a blast to drive. They're just fun little cars.
We are coming back with the GT, GTS, and Touring Car combined event from Mazda Raceway, Laguna Seca.